The world watches as two giants collide. The United States and China are locked in a fierce competition. They are vying for global dominance. This rivalry will reshape the world as we know it. It affects every aspect of our lives. The United States has long been a superpower. Its military and economy are unmatched. But China is catching up. Its economy has grown rapidly in recent decades. China is now a major player on the world stage. This rivalry is not just about economics, it is also about ideology. The United States is a democracy, it values individual freedom. China is an authoritarian state, it prioritizes order and control. These competing visions are playing out on a global scale. Countries around the world are caught in the middle. They must choose sides, or they must find a way to navigate this complex geopolitical landscape. The stakes are high. This rivalry will determine the future of the world. It will shape the 21st century and beyond. As the 20th century dawned, the United States was undergoing a profound transformation. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing, propelling the nation toward economic dominance. Factories hummed with activity, churning out goods that flooded domestic and international markets. The United States was becoming a powerhouse of industry, innovation, and influence. This economic boom translated into growing political clout on the world stage. The United States flexed its muscles in international affairs, asserting itself as a major player in global politics. Its military might grew, and its voice carried weight in diplomatic circles. The nation was on an upward trajectory, destined for a leading role in shaping the course of the century. However, this rise to prominence was not without its challenges. The United States faced internal divisions, economic fluctuations, and the specter of war. Yet, it emerged from these trials stronger. Its position as a global power solidified. The American century, as it would later be known, was well underway. This period marked a turning point in world history. The United States, once a fledgling nation on the periphery of global power, had come of age. Its influence would shape the political, economic, and social landscape of the 20th century and beyond, setting the stage for its eventual rivalry with a rising China. While the United States was experiencing its industrial and political ascendancy, China faced a starkly different reality. The once mighty Qing dynasty, weakened by internal strife and external pressures, teetered on the brink of collapse. Its fall in 1911 ushered in an era of unprecedented turmoil and upheaval for the Chinese people. The following decades were marked by chaos and fragmentation. Warlords vied for control, plunging the nation into a state of near constant conflict. The Chinese people endured immense suffering as their country grappled with political instability, economic hardship, and social unrest. The dream of modernization seemed a distant prospect amidst the turmoil. Yet even in the darkest of times, the spirit of resilience and the yearning for a brighter future flickered within the hearts of the Chinese people. They endured, clinging to the hope of a unified and prosperous China. This tumultuous period, though fraught with hardship, would ultimately shape China's destiny, fueling its determination to reclaim its rightful place on the world stage. The road ahead would be long and arduous, but the seeds of China's future rise were sown in the ashes of its past. The nation's struggle for modernization and stability would eventually pave the way for its emergence as a global power, setting the stage for an inevitable encounter with the United States. For decades, the United States and Communist China had viewed each other with suspicion and hostility. The Cold War had driven a wedge between the two nations, leaving them ideologically and politically estranged. However, in the early 1970s, a glimmer of hope emerged in the form of an unprecedented diplomatic overture. In 1972, U.S. President Richard Nixon embarked on a historic trip to Beijing, marking the beginning of a thaw in relations between the two Cold War adversaries. This landmark visit signaled a shift in the geopolitical landscape, opening the door for dialogue and cooperation after years of mutual distrust. The world watched with bated breath as Nixon, a staunch anti-communist, met with Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai, a pivotal figure in the Chinese Communist Party. Nixon's visit was a carefully calibrated gamble, driven by a desire to exploit the Sino-Soviet split and gain a strategic advantage in the Cold War. For China, it presented an opportunity to emerge from international isolation and secure much-needed economic and technological assistance. This meeting of minds, though born out of pragmatic considerations, laid the groundwork for a gradual normalization of relations. The following years witnessed a cautious dance of diplomacy as both sides navigated the complexities of their newfound relationship. Cultural exchanges resumed, trade ties were cautiously established, and a sense of cautious optimism pervaded the air. While significant challenges remained, Nixon's visit had irrevocably altered the dynamics between the United States and China, setting in motion a chain of events that would reshape the geopolitical landscape of the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Following the tumultuous years of the Cultural Revolution and the passing of Mao Zedong, China found itself at a crossroads. The nation was economically depleted, politically isolated, and yearning for stability and progress. It was against this backdrop that Deng Xiaoping, a pragmatic and visionary leader, emerged to steer China on a new course, a course that would transform the nation and reverberate across the globe. Deng, recognizing the need for change, initiated a series of bold economic reforms that would come to be known as reform and opening up. Breaking away from the rigidities of the past, he cautiously introduced market-oriented policies into the socialist system. This pivotal shift signaled a departure from the ideological dogma that had stifled China's growth for decades, paving the way for a new era of pragmatism and economic dynamism. One of Deng's most significant moves was to dismantle the collectivized agricultural system, allowing farmers to lease land and sell their surplus in the open market. This unleashing of entrepreneurial spirit invigorated the agricultural sector, leading to increased productivity and improved living standards in rural areas. The success in agriculture emboldened Deng to extend reforms to other sectors of the economy. Special economic zones were established along the coast, offering tax incentives and relaxed regulations to attract foreign investment. These zones became engines of growth, attracting foreign capital, technology, and expertise, and serving as testing grounds for market-oriented policies. China, once a closed-off nation, was opening its doors to the world, embracing a path of economic integration and global engagement. The impact of Deng's reforms was nothing short of transformative. China embarked on an unprecedented period of economic expansion, witnessing growth rates that astonished the world. Factories sprang up across the country, churning out goods for both domestic consumption and export markets. China was rapidly becoming the world's factory, its low-cost labor and burgeoning manufacturing capacity reshaping global supply chains. The influx of foreign investment, coupled with the entrepreneurial spirit unleashed by Deng's reforms, fueled an economic boom that lifted millions out of poverty and propelled China into the ranks of middle-income countries. Cities like Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou underwent breathtaking transformations, morphing from sleepy towns into bustling metropolises, their skylines punctuated by gleaming skyscrapers that stood as testaments to China's newfound prosperity. This economic miracle was not without its challenges. Income inequality widened, environmental degradation became a pressing concern, and the gap between the wealthy coastal regions and the less developed interior persisted. However, the sheer scale and speed of China's economic transformation were undeniable. The world watched in awe as a nation that had once been synonymous with poverty and isolation was rapidly emerging as a global economic powerhouse. China's rise had profound implications for the global balance of power, challenging the existing economic order and setting the stage for a new era of geopolitical competition. As China's economic might grew, so too did its presence on the world stage. No longer content with being a passive player in the global economy, China actively sought to integrate itself into international institutions and forge new partnerships around the world. This outward-looking approach marked a significant departure from its previous isolationist stance, signaling China's growing confidence and ambition. A defining moment in China's global integration came in 2001 when it joined the World Trade Organization. This accession, the culmination of years of negotiations and reforms, cemented China's position as a major player in global trade. It provided Chinese companies with greater access to international markets, while also subjecting them to the rules and disciplines of the global trading system. China's entry into the WTO was met with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Supporters argued that it would lead to greater economic openness and reforms within China, while also benefiting the global economy through increased trade and investment. Critics, however, expressed concerns about China's labor practices, environmental standards, and commitment to intellectual property rights. Despite these concerns, China's integration into the global economy continued apace. It became a major trading partner with countries around the world, its exports flooding global markets and its companies increasingly competing head-to-head with established multinational corporations. China's growing economic clout gave it a powerful voice in international affairs, allowing it to assert its interests and shape the global agenda in ways that had been unimaginable just a few decades earlier. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 marked not only the end of the Cold War, but also the dawn of a new world order. With the Soviet Union consigned to the dustbin of history, the United States emerged as the sole superpower, its military and economic might unrivaled on the global stage. This unipolar moment, as it came to be known, ushered in an era of unprecedented American dominance across political, economic, and cultural spheres. The U.S. military, already a formidable force, underwent further expansion and modernization, projecting its power across the globe through a network of military bases and alliances. From the Persian Gulf to the Korean Peninsula, American military presence served as a stabilizing force, deterring conflict and safeguarding U.S. interests in strategic regions. Its economic prowess, fueled by technological innovation and a dynamic financial sector, further cemented its position atop the global hierarchy. American culture, too, experienced a period of global diffusion. Hollywood blockbusters captivated audiences worldwide, American music dominated the airwaves, and American brands became synonymous with quality and aspiration. This cultural influence, often referred to as soft power, further enhanced America's global standing, making its values and way of life attractive to people around the world. The United States, it seemed, was at the zenith of its power, its influence seemingly limitless. Yet beneath the surface of this unipolar moment, seeds of change were being sown. The forces of globalization, technological disruption, and the rise of new powers would soon challenge the foundations of American hegemony, ushering in an era of greater geopolitical complexity and competition. As the 20th century gave way to the 21st, a new frontier was emerging in the heart of California Silicon Valley. This cluster of innovation and entrepreneurship became the epicenter of a technological revolution that would transform the world, placing the United States at the forefront of the digital age. From the advent of the World Wide Web to the rise of personal computing, Silicon Valley became synonymous with technological prowess and disruptive innovation. Companies like Microsoft, Apple, and Google, born in the crucible of Silicon Valley, grew into global behemoths, their products and services becoming ubiquitous in homes, offices, and pockets around the world. The internet, once a niche technology, exploded in popularity, connecting people and information like never before. This digital revolution not only reshaped the economic landscape but also transformed the way people communicated, consumed information, and interacted with the world around them. The United States, with its entrepreneurial spirit, deep pools of capital, and world-class research institutions, was uniquely positioned to capitalize on this technological wave. Silicon Valley became a magnet for talent from around the globe, attracting the brightest minds in computer science, engineering, and design. This concentration of talent and resources further fueled American innovation, creating a virtuous cycle of technological advancement and economic growth. The rise of Silicon Valley solidified America's position as a technological superpower, giving it a commanding lead in the industries of the future. However, this dominance would not go unchallenged. As technology continued to evolve at a rapid pace, new players, particularly from China, would emerge, eager to stake their claim in the digital realm and challenge American supremacy in the technological domain. Despite its seemingly unassailable position in the aftermath of the Cold War, the United States began to encounter a series of challenges that gradually chipped away at its global dominance. The 9/11 terrorist attacks, a watershed moment in American history, exposed vulnerabilities in its security apparatus and led to protracted military interventions in Afghanistan and Iraq. These costly and inconclusive wars drained resources, strained alliances, and diverted attention from other pressing global challenges. The 2008 financial crisis, triggered by the collapse of the subprime mortgage market in the United States, further shook the foundations of American economic power. The crisis, which quickly morphed into a global recession, exposed weaknesses in the American financial system and raised questions about the sustainability of its economic model. The image of American invincibility, carefully cultivated during the unipolar moment, was tarnished. As the United States grappled with these internal challenges, a new set of external pressures began to mount. The rise of China, from a poor agrarian society to an economic and technological powerhouse, presented the most significant challenge to American hegemony since the Cold War. China's growing economic might, coupled with its expanding military capabilities and assertive foreign policy, signaled its ambition to reshape the global order and challenge American dominance across multiple domains. The world was no longer unipolar. A new era of multipolarity was dawning, one in which the United States would need to contend with a rising China and other emerging powers for influence, resources, and technological supremacy. The rules of the game were changing, and the United States, accustomed to dictating terms, would need to adapt to a more complex and contested global landscape. As China's economic and political clout grew, so too did its appetite for global influence. No longer content with being a passive recipient of the existing world order, China, under the leadership of Xi Jinping, embarked on an ambitious foreign policy initiative designed to reshape the geopolitical landscape, the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. This grand strategy, unveiled in 2013, sought to revive ancient trade routes and establish new ones, connecting China to Asia, Africa, Europe, and beyond through a vast network of infrastructure projects. The BRI, often referred to as the New Silk Road, encompasses a sprawling web of investments in roads, railways, ports, pipelines, and other infrastructure projects across more than 70 countries. These investments, estimated to be worth trillions of dollars, are intended to facilitate trade, boost economic development, and strengthen ties between China and participating nations. For China, the BRI represents a strategic masterstroke, a way to secure access to vital resources, expand its economic footprint, and project its influence across the globe. However, the BRI has not been without its critics. Western governments, wary of China's growing influence, have accused Beijing of using the initiative as a tool of economic coercion, saddling developing countries with unsustainable debt and undermining their sovereignty. Concerns have also been raised about transparency, environmental sustainability, and the potential for corruption associated with BRI projects. Despite these criticisms, the BRI has gained considerable traction, attracting participation from a diverse range of countries, many of them eager for investment and infrastructure development. The initiative has become a cornerstone of China's foreign policy, a tangible manifestation of its growing global ambitions and its determination to reshape the world in its own image. The BRI, with its vast scope and potential impact, represents a defining feature of the 21st century geopolitical landscape, a testament to China's growing power and its willingness to challenge the existing world order. While China's economic rise has garnered significant attention, its military modernization has proceeded at an equally rapid pace, raising concerns among its neighbors and the United States. Driven by a desire to safeguard its growing economic interests, project power further afield, and assert its claims in regional disputes, China has undertaken a comprehensive military buildup, transforming its armed forces into a formidable fighting force capable of challenging the regional and global balance of power. China's military modernization has focused on developing advanced weaponry, enhancing its naval and air capabilities, and bolstering its presence in key strategic locations. Its investments in cutting-edge technologies, including hypersonic missiles, artificial intelligence, and cyber warfare capabilities, have eroded the technological edge long enjoyed by the United States and its allies. The People's Liberation Army, once a largely conscript force equipped with outdated equipment, has undergone a remarkable transformation, becoming a modern fighting force capable of conducting complex operations across multiple domains. China's growing military assertiveness has been particularly evident in the South China Sea, where it has constructed artificial islands, deployed military assets, and engaged in provocative maneuvers to assert its expansive territorial claims. These actions have heightened tensions with neighboring countries, many of whom have overlapping claims in the region, and raised the specter of potential conflict. The United States, seeking to uphold freedom of navigation and deter Chinese aggression, has conducted naval operations and provided military support to regional allies, further fueling the rivalry between the two superpowers. China's military modernization, coupled with its assertive foreign policy, has fundamentally altered the security landscape in the Asia-Pacific region and beyond. The era of unchallenged American military dominance is over. The United States and its allies face a more capable and assertive China, one willing to use its military might to advance its interests and challenge the existing regional and global order. For decades, China was content to play catch-up in the realm of technology, relying on reverse engineering, technology transfer and foreign investment to acquire the know-how needed to fuel its economic growth. However, as China's ambitions have grown, so too has its determination to become a global leader in technological innovation, challenging the United States for supremacy in the industries of the future. This shift from imitation to innovation has been nothing short of remarkable, transforming China into a technological powerhouse capable of competing head-to-head with the world's most advanced economies. China's technological rise has been fueled by massive government investments in research and development, a relentless focus on STEM education, and a willingness to embrace risk-taking and entrepreneurship. The results have been impressive. China has made significant strides in areas such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, 5G wireless technology, and renewable energy, emerging as a global leader in several key technological domains. Chinese tech giants like Huawei, Alibaba, and Tencent have become household names, their products and services rivaling those of their Western counterparts in terms of quality and sophistication. This technological rivalry between the United States and China has become a defining feature of the 21st century, with implications for economic competitiveness, national security, and global influence. The United States, long accustomed to being the world's technological leader, now faces a formidable challenger in China, a country with the resources, talent, and ambition to surpass it in key areas. This competition has spilled over into the political realm, with accusations of intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer, and unfair trade practices poisoning relations between the two superpowers. The stakes in this technological arms race are high. Dominance in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and other emerging technologies will shape the future of warfare, economic competitiveness, and global power dynamics. Both the United States and China recognize this reality, and both are investing heavily to ensure that they come out ahead in this high-stakes competition. The outcome of this technological rivalry will have profound implications for the future of the global order. The seeds of economic discord between the United States and China were sown long before the eruption of a full-blown trade war. As China's economic might grew, so too did concerns in Washington about its trade practices, its impact on American jobs, and its growing technological prowess. The stage was set for a clash of economic titans, a confrontation that would reverberate across the global economy. At the heart of American anxieties lay a growing trade deficit with China, which had ballooned to unprecedented levels. American manufacturers, facing stiff competition from Chinese imports, argued that China's undervalued currency and lax labor and environmental standards gave it an unfair advantage in the global marketplace. The loss of manufacturing jobs in the American heartland, once a bedrock of the U.S. economy, fueled resentment and a sense that China's economic rise was coming at America's expense. Beyond trade, concerns mounted about China's aggressive pursuit of technological advancement, often through means deemed unfair by the United States. Accusations of intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer, and state-sponsored industrial espionage poisoned the relationship, creating an atmosphere of distrust and suspicion. The Trump administration, with its America First agenda, came to view China's economic practices as an existential threat, a challenge to American economic dominance that demanded a forceful response. The stage was set for a high-stakes showdown, a clash of economic ideologies and geopolitical ambitions. the United States, accustomed to dictating terms in the global trading system, found itself facing a formidable challenger in China, a country determined to protect its economic interests and carve out a larger role for itself on the world stage. The trade war, when it finally erupted, was the culmination of years of simmering tensions, a reflection of the deep-seated economic and strategic rivalry between the world's two largest economies. In 2018, the simmering economic tensions between the United States and China finally boiled over, erupting into a full-blown trade war that sent shockwaves through the global economy. The Trump administration, accusing China of unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, and currency manipulation, imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, targeting sectors ranging from electronics to agricultural products. China, refusing to back down, retaliated with tariffs of its own, targeting American exports such as soybeans, automobiles, and aircraft. The trade war, far from resolving the underlying economic disputes, escalated rapidly, becoming a high-stakes game of chicken between the world's two largest economies. Each round of tariffs was met with a counter-response, creating a tit-for-tat escalation that rattled global markets, disrupted supply chains, and injected uncertainty into the global trading system. Businesses, caught in the crossfire, scrambled to adjust to the new reality, while consumers faced the prospect of higher prices and diminished choices. The trade war became a defining feature of the Trump presidency, a symbol of its confrontational approach to China and its willingness to use tariffs as a weapon to extract concessions. Negotiations, while undertaken sporadically, failed to produce a lasting agreement, with both sides digging in their heels on core issues such as market access, intellectual property, and industrial subsidies. The trade war, initially touted by the Trump administration as a quick win, dragged on, becoming a protracted economic conflict with far-reaching consequences for both countries and the global economy as a whole. The trade war represented a dangerous escalation in the US-China rivalry, a departure from decades of relative economic cooperation. It underscored the growing strategic competition between the two superpowers, a competition that extended beyond trade to encompass technology, geopolitics, and ideological influence. The world watched nervously, unsure of how the conflict would be resolved and what the long-term consequences would be for the global economic order. Section 3. A World on Edge: Global Impacts and Uncertain Futures. The US-China trade war, far from being a bilateral spat, reverberated across the global economy, injecting uncertainty, disrupting supply chains, and threatening to upend the rules-based trading system that had underpinned decades of global prosperity. Countries around the world, caught in the crossfire between the world's two largest economies, scrambled to adjust to the new reality, navigating a complex web of tariffs, shifting alliances, and geopolitical tensions. The trade war's impact was felt most acutely in sectors heavily reliant on global trade, such as manufacturing, agriculture, and technology. Businesses facing higher tariffs and disrupted supply chains were forced to absorb increased costs, delay investments, or shift production to other countries, leading to job losses and slower economic growth. Consumers, too, felt the pinch, as tariffs on imported goods translated into higher prices for everything from electronics to clothing. The trade war also exacerbated existing geopolitical tensions, as countries were forced to choose sides or navigate a delicate balancing act between the United States and China. The conflict provided an opening for China to strengthen its economic ties with other countries, particularly in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative. The United States, seeking to counter China's growing influence, sought to rally allies to its cause, urging them to take a tougher stance against what it perceived as unfair Chinese trade practices. The future of the global economy remained uncertain as the trade war dragged on. The conflict, if left unresolved, threatened to fragment the global trading system, leading to a world of competing blocs, diminished trade, and slower economic growth. The stakes were high, not just for the United States and China, but for the entire world. The world watched nervously, hoping for a resolution that would restore stability to the global economy and prevent the trade war from spiraling into a broader geopolitical conflict. Section 1. A Sea of Disputes, Territorial Claims and Military Maneuvers. The vast expanse of the Indo-Pacific, home to some of the world's busiest shipping lanes and richest fishing grounds, has become the epicenter of strategic competition between the United States and China. Territorial disputes, military buildups, and competing visions for regional order have transformed this strategically vital region into a focal point of geopolitical tensions, raising concerns about the potential for miscalculation and conflict. At the heart of the Indo-Pacific rivalry lies the South China Sea, a maritime region of immense economic and strategic importance. China, emboldened by its growing economic and military might, has asserted expansive territorial claims in the South China Sea, claiming sovereignty over nearly the entire region, including islands, reefs, and submerged features claimed by several Southeast Asian nations. To reinforce its claims, China has embarked on an ambitious island-building campaign, transforming reefs and shoals into artificial islands capable of hosting military installations, airstrips, and other infrastructure. These actions have alarmed neighboring countries, many of whom have overlapping claims in the region and view China's assertiveness as a threat to their sovereignty and security. The Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan all have competing claims in the South China Sea and have protested China's actions through diplomatic channels and international legal forums. The United States, while not a claimant in the disputes, has a strong interest in upholding freedom of navigation and maintaining regional stability, and has challenged China's claims through naval operations and diplomatic pressure. The South China Sea has become a flashpoint for potential conflict, a maritime chessboard where the United States and China are engaged in a delicate and dangerous dance. Both sides have deployed warships, conducted military exercises, and engaged in close encounters that have raised concerns about the potential for miscalculation and escalation. The risk of an incident at sea sparking a wider conflict remains a constant threat, casting a long shadow over the region and underscoring the high stakes of the US-China rivalry in the Indo-Pacific. Section 2. The Indo-Pacific Chessboard: Alliances, Partnerships, and Strategic Balancing. The strategic competition between the United States and China in the Indo-Pacific extends beyond the South China Sea, encompassing a broader struggle for influence, partnerships, and regional order. Both superpowers are actively courting allies, strengthening diplomatic ties, and seeking to shape the regional security architecture to their advantage, turning the Indo-Pacific into a complex chessboard of shifting alliances and strategic maneuvering. The United States, with its long-standing security commitments in the region, has sought to strengthen its alliances with Japan, South Korea, and Australia, forming a network of like-minded partners united by shared concerns about China's growing assertiveness. The Biden administration has placed a renewed emphasis on multilateralism, engaging with regional groupings like the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, and the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, Quad, which includes the United States, Japan, Australia, and India. China, for its part, has been actively cultivating its own network of partnerships, leveraging its economic clout and diplomatic outreach to deepen ties with countries across the region. Beijing has signed trade deals, provided development assistance, and engaged in diplomatic initiatives designed to counter American influence and promote its vision of a multipolar world order in which China plays a leading role. The competition for influence in the Indo-Pacific has intensified, with both the United States and China seeking to win over countries caught in the middle. Smaller nations in the region face a difficult balancing act, seeking to maintain strong ties with both superpowers while avoiding becoming overly reliant on either. The outcome of this strategic competition will have profound implications for the future of the Indo-Pacific, shaping regional security, economic integration, and the balance of power in the 21st century. Section 1. The rivalry that will define the century. The US-China rivalry is the defining geopolitical challenge of the 21st century. It is a clash of titans, a struggle between the established superpower and a rising giant. The stakes are incredibly high. The outcome of this rivalry will shape the global balance of power for decades to come. The rivalry is multifaceted, encompassing economics, technology, ideology, and geopolitics. Economically, the two countries are deeply intertwined, yet they are also fierce competitors, vying for markets, resources, and technological dominance. Technologically, both nations are locked in a race for supremacy in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and other cutting-edge fields, recognizing that leadership in these areas will confer significant strategic advantages. Ideologically, the US and China represent competing visions of how the world should be ordered. The US champions democracy, individual liberty, and a rules-based international order, while China promotes its model of state-led capitalism and a more authoritarian approach to governance. Geopolitically, the rivalry is playing out most intensely in the Indo-Pacific region, where China's growing assertiveness is challenging the regional security architecture and testing the limits of US resolve. The US-China rivalry is not just a competition between two nations, it is a struggle between two systems, two sets of values, two visions for the future. The world watches anxiously, caught between these competing poles of power, uncertain of what the future holds. How this rivalry is managed, whether through cooperation, competition, or conflict, will determine the course of the 21st century and beyond.